So, welcome. It's so good to see you again. Yeah. And
you.
in the audience, welcome very, very much to Conversations. Our guest is Gnoleba Seri Esq, and he's the president and the CEO of a very interesting organization, very relevant organization called the African Chamber of Commerce in the United States. He's from the country of...
The Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast, it's been so much in the news now. He's very familiar with that country and with the players and so forth that has been so much in the news more recently. We're going to be talking about that and other matters relating to Africa. And it's so good. He's been a guest in the past, but it's so good to see you again, Gnoleba. And welcome very, very much to Conversation.
Thank you for having me, Howard. It's always a pleasure to be on.
Always good to talk with you. We've done program in the past, but maybe you share in a kind of quick way your background. You're from Ivory Coast, and you're an attorney, and so forth. A little of your own personal background.
No, definitely. I came to the United States in the 1990s, and of course, I'm from the Ivory Coast. I went to law school here, and I became an attorney, and now I'm admitted to practice law in both New York and New Jersey. You took your law degree in Africa? I had a background in law at the University of Abidjan in the Ivory Coast. Yeah. And then when I came here in the 1990s, I have to start all over again. Yeah, that I'd like to get to. You'd taken a law degree, and then when you came here, you had to go back through law school, the whole course of law school? Yes. That's a long grind. That's 3 or 4 years or something. Definitely, because, you know, in the French-speaking countries, like the Ivory Coast, you know, we are practicing civil law. Civil law. So, meaning basically the law is based on the civil code. Okay. In the Ivory Coast, in the United States, the law is a common law system, whereby the judge is basically the one who is making the law. So, because the system is different, I had basically to start all over, and this is basically what I did. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm getting over a cold. I'm sorry about that. But they had a Napoleonic code in France. It was different, and French was the colonial power in Ivory Coast. Definitely. And it makes me wonder, they have different kinds of law. I mean, there's all kinds. There's 195 countries, and you have different kinds of law. Yes. And different kinds of accounting, different kinds of everything. So that if somebody is in the professions, are they able? They have to go through the whole procedure of university training to practice that profession in this country if they come here from another land. What's the reality on that? Because it's a huge barrier. If you've got a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, he has to go back to grade school or taking physics or something. Do you understand what I'm saying? No, definitely. Law is a bit different in the sense that it's basically a set of rules that, you know, regulate a society. Exactly. So when you move from one society to the other, basically the rules are different. But for lawyers, what is important is basically the legal reasoning. The legal reasoning is the same. The legal writing is the same. But the law may be different. That's very interesting, yeah. That wouldn't apply to, let's say, brain surgery. No. Brain surgery would be the same no matter what. Definitely. Accounting could be different. They have different accounting systems. Definitely. But the law is a foundational thing for organization of society, as you say. In Britain, we had the common law that we inherited, and there are different law systems. Some of the tribal peoples of the New World had a different notion of how they're going to organize society. Definitely. I think the law is the rules of the game, as it were. Or if you had a computer and you were going to open the box, that operating system to understand the operating system of Spaceship Earth, then there would be, we don't have an operating system. We don't have an overarching system that understands the reality other than the various ways in which that's been interpreted by the various political entities that have evolved different ways of seeing those realities. I agree. No, is that true? Yeah, that's a big problem in terms of communication. We don't. Yes. How have we been able? Seri, how have we ever been able to globalize
under such a condition. Are there different conditions in terms of the understanding of the way business is to be contracted? Contracts are to be enforced and respected. And so how have you been able, under such an anarchical thing, where they required you to go back and go all through law school again, after having been through it? I mean, how can such a system operate? I'm trying to understand it.
No, definitely on a regional, international, and global level, usually what's happening is people use international organizations. So country will be part of these organizations, and then within these organizations, they will codify whatever law they want to be applied on a regional or a international scale.
Or a national scale.
Exactly.
Well, so, they each have their own constitution.
Definitely, but when they get to the international organization, they will give up a bit of the sovereignty, basically, so that what applies to them is whatever treaty that came out of this international or regional organization, so that the law of the organization will be codified in their respective countries, and then it will become law in those countries.
I see. Yeah, we got a lot of problems with so many different, and sovereignty more or less is still seen at the national level.
Definitely, and many countries, many leaders are very, peculiar in terms of the sovereignty. So,
well, how they interpret it, yeah. There's a very different thing when you have like Saudi Arabia has a royal family, and they have a system that is in such and such a way, and then people have different systems in terms of the way they're politically and economically organized. There are all these differences.
Definitely. Usually, I mean, these leaders, in order to preserve their sovereignty, they make sure that the right or the duty to come into the country is limited.
The right to come into the country
is limited. The insurance rights or duty is limited. So this is really how they make sure that the country is protected, so that whatever, when it comes to the internal affairs of any particular country, they make sure that the outside worlds do not interfere with what is going on in this specific country.
I think a lot of the African is very aware of the fact that they were colonized by European powers for a long time, which didn't pay much attention to what the local people thought. They were busy imposing upon that territory interests that served the homeland. Right? The colonization and sovereignty at the level is particularly precious where people have been colonized.
Exactly. And then when the colonized entities became independent, then this was the time for them to reclaim this sovereignty.
Okay. This is basic stuff, but it's important. How did it come to be? They used to have 192 nations at the United Nations. Now there's 195. How many nations, how do we define nation? And there's, I think, something like 5,000 languages in the world. How do we do it with all the ethnic groups or subgroups within any geographical area that might claim to be a nation? There's people who think Kashmir might emerge as another country, another sovereign nation, and other places. How did we arrive at 195? Why not 1,000? Why not 2,000? And so forth?
No, I mean, this is an important question.
It is indeed.
And I think what is important to notice here is that many two elements are important. You need a people, and you need a land.
Yeah.
A separate and sovereign land. So this is really, usually a people can come together and desire to form a sovereign nation or sovereign country. But most of the time they lack the land element, because wherever they're located, the government who is there will deny them the right to occupy this land.
Land that other government occupies
already.
Exactly,
because so the government will say, no, you are a different people. You can be a nation in my country, but I will deny you the right to take on my land to create a separate country.
Take a piece of my land.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's a conflict between powers.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's something that's been there. You got irredentist claims and all kinds of things that come up in different legal systems.
It's been going on in Western Sahara Africa. And in Eritrea. And right now, when you look at Africa, when you look at the Sudan,
right
now
there
will be a referendum.
There's going to be a referendum soon
for the southern Sudanese to determine, whether they want to be a sovereign nation or not.
That's where most of the oil is. So there you've got money, and so that's going to influence things.
Definitely. But the interesting piece in the Sudanese situation is that the government, the northern government, has agreed to, go by the will of the people, so that whenever, the southerners decide to be independent or to be a sovereign nation, the president, who is from the north, has already pledged to go by the will of the southerners.
Yeah,
so this is a
you're talking Sudan again.
Yeah, in Sudan, yes.
Ali Traiki, my friend, you know Ali Traiki?
Yeah,
Ali Traiki said Sudan could feed the world agriculturally. It's such rich land and so forth, and yet it's not been able to do that. There's been a great deal of trouble with Bashir and that kind of Darfur and all that.
No, definitely.
And there are problems in Africa and everything like that. But it's just interesting to get a take on things. And how did it come to be that so many countries? How did Congo come to be so big and Guinea so small? I mean, how did they determine that? I guess it's just all geopolitical maneuvering by various political groups, and they all have different systems of law, different language. It separates.
Definitely, and we all remember
religions.
We remember the conference of Berlin, where Western powers, basically put on the table, the map of Africa, and
just cut it up.
Just,
like cutting up a Thanksgiving turkey. I'll take the
exactly. So when you look at, for example, the west part of Africa, you have small countries like, Togo, between, Benin and Ghana, and I mean, it's definitely a problem.
And some of the places in the world are better endowed with things that have economic importance. So that makes a problem. You have economic differences between the countries, and you have different economic classes with each of the political entities, and then you have regional differences between people and then other people that are better off. So there's a lot of, it's a wonder anything ever gets done on this planet in a way. It's so complicated. But you have to understand that, and you have to understand, particularly from the standpoint of the chamber, you're trying to encourage better connection to the entrepreneurial community in Africa and North America. And I congratulate, because you were the founder of that, and that was hard work to get that done.
No, definitely. I mean, I was on your show before to talk about the chamber, and we've been created since 2006, and since 2006 we've been working to make sure that African businesses in the U.S. are strong enough to make sure that we go back and invest in our different countries.
Well, that's good. Or if people who want to do business here from entrepreneurs in Africa, they would have to understand the arcane system that the United States has, which is incredibly complex.
Exactly, so that when they come to us, we will help them navigate, business system in the United States.
If they can. Businessmen here have a hard time navigating because it gets very confused with all the different agencies and then the political power, and then there's a little bit of under-the-table maneuvering and all that sort of thing and everything.
Definitely.
All of that sort of, in a sense, background in thinking about whether or not or how the world can function and how it's divided up and how many nations are we going to end up with, or will there ever be united? We had Yugoslavia, now we got different countries. That broke up. That was centripetal,
Bosnia,
or centrifugal. And how many nations are, and how do we define a nation? These are all elemental questions, I guess. But anyway, as to Africa and the situation there from your own country, introduce your country to us, please. You're from the country where there's difficulty now.
No, thank you. You know, Ivory Coast is basically located in the west part of Africa. Yeah. And with borders to the west with Liberia, to the north with Mali and Burkina Faso, to the east with Ghana, and then there is an Atlantic Ocean in the south. So this is how basically, like we said, Ivory Coast has been carved. Because this is basically what's happened.
Are they reflecting tribal units? I know in Nigeria they have Igbo, and then they have there are different tribes that are traditional.
We have basically more than 60 ethnic groups.
Ethnic groups in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa?
Just in the Ivory Coast.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay. Ethnic groups.
Yeah.
How do we define an ethnic group?
An ethnic group is basically a group that have, you know, specific customs. Custom in terms of, you know, rules, you know, to get married, rules to bury your dead, rules to, you know, specific rules to organize your small community.
How many ethnic groups are there in the world?
Oh, thousands. I can even say million. Now, in the Ivory Coast specifically,
so it's different than
you have smaller ethnic groups and then larger ethnic groups. Okay,
like the Igbo.
Exactly. The Igbo in Nigeria, for example. The Igbo in Nigeria. You have the Wolof in Senegal.
Right.
In Ivory Coast, you have the Baule. The main ethnic group. You have the Jula. You have the Kru. You have the Mende, and so on and so on. And then when you get to really like on the lowest scale, then you have the Ajukru, you have the Guro. These are really...
Are those sub-ethnic groups?
No, not sub, but smaller entities. Smaller ethnic groups.
Depends on your definition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But these groups have their own ways of organizing their own small community.
Yeah, it's really interesting. How do we divide the world up that way? I mean, because and then you have religious difference. That can be a whole swath of people that are done that. And language. Is there different language associated with each of those ethnic? Or
yes.
Each of those 60 ethnic groups in Ivory Coast would have a different language?
Mostly they speak different languages, but with some familiarities among the ethnic groups.
Okay.
So, for example, you have within the Baule ethnic group, you have the Ani, you have the Apollo, who, you know, can speak.
They speak languages that they can't understand one another, or is it like Spanish and Portuguese or something?
Some words will overlap. See what I'm saying? So. But then definitely some other ethnic groups are totally different. For example, if you take an ethnic group in the south of the Ivory Coast, like the Hébrier, the Hébrier language is definitely different from the Bambara language in the north of the Ivory Coast. No similarity at all.
And are there traditions associated with those long ethnic roots that go back in history with these people that had conflict in a serious way with what was superimposed by the European colonists in terms of the way your government is currently established? Like we were influenced by the British, We revolted. We made our own. You understand? So you understand what I'm saying?
No, definitely.
So we want to get down to the current situation, which is dangerous.
I mean, you bet. You bet. And this is and remember when the colonial power came to a place like the Ivory Coast, in order to maintain themselves, they have to divide and conquer.
That's right. So, they did it beautifully. Yeah.
So they have to make some other ethnic groups better than the other one.
So they would favor a group. Yeah.
Favor one group.
Like the East Indian Company in India as well.
When you take the Rwanda situation, for example, they will favor the Tutsi as opposed to the Hutu, the majority Hutu. And so this also played in the Ivory Coast. And on top of that, when you take the religious aspect of the issue, you have enough Muslim.
You're talking to Ivory Coast?
Yeah, Ivory Coast.
Okay, like Nigeria also, I think.
Nigeria also.
There's a belt of Islam over near the top of that West African belt.
Same thing in Nigeria. So, and then the South, mostly Christian.
Does that hold in Sudan as well? You have Muslim
in Sudan, I believe so.
Animus,
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, but back again to your own country. Yeah. So because it's been in the news a great deal lately, and apparently there's been, could you share us a little bit the recent political history and the fact that you've had an election that's been disputed, and where does it stand? How dangerous is it? The world's been watching that country very carefully, like they don't want anything to break out like a war or anything like that is worrisome. Yeah.
And this is really why I thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
On this on your show today, because at the African Chamber of Commerce, our position is we need to make sure that we avoid war at any cost in the Ivory Coast, because war is not the solution. Now, we all understand that there are many factors that brought Ivory Coast to the level where we are today.
Some of these ethnic questions and so forth are part of the equation,
We have the colonial power.
And you had that thing in Sierra Leone recently.
Sierra Leone, Liberia, all the mercenaries are still out there trying to find jobs. So, I mean, they're basically
or get a society to work well.
Definitely. And we have the colonial power France that, have many economic interests in the Ivory Coast. So it's many factors. But to summarize what is happening in the Ivory Coast, there was an election. There was a runoff of the presidential election on
a runoff,
a runoff, the second round on November 28th. And after this runoff, there were basically two constitutional structures.
Two what?
Two entities that are in charge of the elections.
Would that be like political parties?
No, not political parties, but there were constitutional entities. For example, you have an independent commission, independent election commission.
To oversee the election?
To oversee
That's
the
national
election.
Or international?
National.
Is there an international oversight?
There was an international oversight by the United Nations.
Okay.
So let's talk about the national level first.
Yes, please.
So at the national level, there was an independent electoral commission that proclaimed Mr. Alassane Ouattara, who was in the opposition, as the winner of the election.
Okay, now stop for a minute. Let's see, here we focus down on a presidential level, top of the country, and you're talking about two people. They were part of political entities or parties?
Political parties.
And it's between the two of them that it came down who was going to be in charge of the country.
Okay.
Is that right? Sort of like we have Democrat, Republican, roughly.
Definitely. Okay, what's happened at the first level, at the first round, there were 14 candidates.
Oh, I see. I see. They
So after the first round, the first two people who came on top went to the second round. Okay. And these two people were the incumbent president, Mr. Laurent Gbagbo. Okay. Who is from the FPI, which is one political party.
Yes.
And then his political opponent, Mr. Alassane Ouattara, who is from the political party called RGR, Okay. So after November 28th...
Excuse me, do they have about equal numbers in terms of people that claim to be associated with those two political parties?
There are basically three main political parties in the Ivory Coast.
Those two are two of them?
Those two, and then a third one from the former president of the Ivory Coast, Mr. Bidier, called the PDCI.
And does that have an influence on the election?
The PDCI had an election because the PDCI endorsed the opposition leader.
They did before the election, running up to the election?
After the runoff.
After the runoff?
Because the PDCI was part of the first...
when it came up to two people you could vote for, they supported one of them?
Yeah, they supported the opposition leader, Mr. Alassane.
That would have been important because that's the third of the...
Exactly. Yeah. So basically it came out to, at the first round, 38 for the incumbent president, 38%, 32% for the opposition leader, Alassane, and then 25% for the PDCI candidate.
And the 25% through their support be one, the one who had... The
25%, the PDCI asked its voters to endorse the opposition leader.
Okay.
So after the runoff, what happened is the commission, the independent commission, proclaimed the result, and they said the opposition leader won.
Because they had support without, there wasn't a separate election after the runoff.
There was not. They just proclaimed the result.
And is that constitutionally built into a system if you have three major parties and it's split three ways, no majority of any one, and one claims to accede to one of the two, that then those votes need not to be cast again, and that they can just declare the one that that third party puts their votes in terms of becomes the president? Is that the way the system's set up?
No. I mean, although the third candidate asked his voters to vote for the opposition leader, they still have to vote for him. It's not an automatic process.
I'm confused. You had an election where you had three candidates?
No, there was an election. The first round has 14 candidates.
Yes. Okay. And then you had three.
The second round has two. The first two were running for the second round.
But where did the third party come in? He was not running?
He wasn't running.
He wasn't running.
All he did was to call for his members to vote for...
But they didn't vote for that third person in the election.
This is the point. After the election, there were conflicting results, okay? And this is really where the chamber, kind of comes in to ask the international community. I will tell you our position, but let me briefly explain.
It's a little confusing.
Exactly, because it's not clear, even for
and those... I'm trying to understand in terms of the local context, that we don't know
Actually, if it's confusing for you, it's also confusing for me.
Wow, it's confusing for you. Imagine me.
Who is from the Ivory Coast, because I'm not on the ground.
Right.
I don't know what really took place.
But you're sort of in touch with people, their family.
And this is politics.
Yeah.
And people, depending on who you talk to, people will give you a different assessment.
Yeah, right.
So it's why we really need to be careful.
Right.
But basically what I'm giving you is what is not in conflict. The facts that are not in conflict.
Okay. Yeah.
So after the runoff, the second round, the commission declared the opposition leader, Mr. Alassane, the winner. And shortly after that, the Constitutional Council, which is the highest court of the Ivory Coast, reversed the elections and declared the incumbent president the winner because, in their reasoning, there were massive fraud in the north.
There was what?
There was fraud. Election fraud in the north.
Boy, it's worthy of Shakespeare.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is really so what's happened then? The UN came in and certified the Ivory Coast election by declaring the opposition leader the winner. Therefore, the international community is behind Mr. Alassane, who is the opposition leader.
Seems to be presidents from other countries and so forth are taking that position.
Yeah. So basically, you have.
But what happened to the claim that there was fraud in the north, and they said they declared for the incumbent? What happened to that claim?
Nobody wants to listen to that.
Nobody?
Nobody. The international.
Even the people who made it have backed down on that, or no?
No. What's happened is.
Do they have arms? Those people that they represent? Who made the claim that tried to stick with the incumbent?
There are arms on both sides.
Oh dear.
The opposition leader is supported by an armed rebellion from the north. And then, of course, the incumbent president has the national army.
Which is the largest army? Because very often power comes out of the end of a gun, you understand. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the forces are equal in the sense that the rebellion started since 2002, and which divided the country, like literally. The Ivory Coast is actually divided between the north controlled by the rebels and the south controlled by the government.
That's a theme you see quite a bit in Africa, don't we?
Definitely, and the government.
Sudan's the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is really where we are now. The UN, the France, the United States, the European Union, the Economic Council of African States, the ECOWAS, the
African Union.
The African Union also.
Who does the African Union as a group support?
The African Union.
There you're going to get into political alliances.
No, the African Union. The African Union's position is not clear at this point because they're still sending envoys.
Yeah.
There's the Prime Minister of Kenya, who is currently.
He was just there a couple of days ago.
Exactly.
Yeah,
to talk to both parties. So the African Union position is not clear. What is clear?
And he said you can't expect it to happen over a weekend. It's going to take time.
Yes.
And BBC had that. Yeah.
This was the position of the president of Nigeria, Mr. Jonathan Goodluck. But what is clear, though, is the position of the ECOWAS. Okay, the ECOWAS is the regional organization which is a grouping basically of 15 African countries, including the Ivory Coast.
Okay.
So ECOWAS is the entity that is today gearing up to send troops in the Ivory Coast.
What is that entity? Is that West African or no? What's the constituency of that group? I'm familiar. What do you call it? ECOWAS?
The ECOWAS.
Yeah, ECOWAS. What is that?
ECOWAS is the economic. ECOWAS, the economic West African states.
West African, then. Senegal?
Yeah. Yes, Senegal. Guinea. You have basically 15 countries.
Up in West Africa?
Yeah,
up into
Nigeria, Senegal, Ivory Coast, Togo, Benin, and all of that.
Okay, and they have military capability under their control or under their authority?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the past, the ECOWAS sent military troops to Liberia in 1990 to deal with the Charles Taylor situation, and also in 1999 to Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
So
terrible.
So basically, they're getting ready to go to the Ivory Coast and basically, to try to take out the incumbent president.
Take out the incumbent president.
Yeah.
So that's the sentiment of much of the international community is in favor of the new the guy who was declared president.
Yes. And yesterday.
How well armed is that opposition in favor of the incumbent? How many tanks? How many guns? How many machine guns?
They will be bringing troops from the ECOWAS, mainly Nigerian troops. And
they would be in opposition to the incumbent president and his forces if they come. So does he have a significant force to resist that, or would he have to comply if it was really strongly applied, that kind of... Do they have military power enough to be able to affect the condition without using it? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I don't, and we don't know how.
Oh, you don't know?
We don't know.
I see.
But what we do know is that the incumbent president, from the statement, he made, and also from the statement people around him made, like, for example, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs recently made, they are not ready to, to cede power, basically.
Mm-hmm. They're not ready to cede power.
They don't want to cede power. And their position is, there was an election, there are issues concerning this election, and they want either the regional community or the international community to come and look into the grievances.
They're claiming fraud and so forth?
They're claiming fraud, basically
in serious dimensions.
In the northern part of the Ivory Coast, because, as we all know, this part is controlled by the rebels. And according to the recommendation of the Ouagadougou political accords, there was supposed to be a disarmament of the rebels 2 months before the elections.
And there was not?
And this did not take place. So that the northern part of the Ivory Coast was entirely controlled by the rebels, and they basically did whatever they want. So this is the government's claim. Now, and the government is asking the international community to look into, because the government filed the grievances with the highest court, and the highest court, in an opinion, read by the president, basically agreed with the incumbent president. It's why they reversed the decision of the Electoral Commission.
Boy, oh boy, that's really a mulligan stew.
So this is really where we are.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous, and everybody is saying that the incumbent president should leave power.
Well, apparently the incumbent president isn't saying that. He has supporters. He has significant supporters.
He has supporters, and so far he has the backing of the military, and he's controlling, the apparatus of the state.
Well, that's quite a lot. That would be quite a lot.
Yeah.
If you have control of the military of the country, and they're loyal, is there any peeling away of loyalty to him? Is there any junior officers claiming for the other side or anything?
All armed forces in the Ivory Coast pledge loyalty to the incumbent president.
And the size of the forces are sizable? I mean, how large is the army? How powerful is it? How does it stack up against whatever could be rained against it? What would the geopolitical realities be?
I don't really know.
Yeah, you haven't been there. Things change.
But what I do know, and this is really why I'm on your show today.
Thank you. Yeah, right.
Is that, I mean, everybody's up in arms about what is going on in Africa.
Yeah.
And especially in the Ivory Coast. Yeah. But our position at the African Chamber of Commerce is to ask people to just take a deep breath.
Yes, yes.
Because what is happening in Ivory Coast is just an electoral issue.
Yes, right. Okay, yeah.
It's not, we're not talking about Bosnia where there's a dictator who is committing genocide, and then we need to send the
Now, yet let's hope it doesn't get to that.
Exactly.
Now you don't want it to get, or Rwanda or something.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Right now, what is happening in the Ivory Coast is just a disputed election.
Oh. Well, let's keep it there.
It is a disputed election. So
now, what international agency can have authority or influence or something in order to help him? I mean, United Nations or something. You said there was international oversight or something. Yeah. Is there anything from the international community that could have influence? What about the United States? Are they weighing in?
All the Western powers, including international organizations, want the incumbent president to cede power without any discussion, without any, you know, I mean, it's just that because the Electoral Commission declared the opposition leader the winner, he needs to take power without any further notice. He has to be the president. He's the one who was chosen.
Yeah, that's always a problem. When you transfer power, to have it done peacefully, that's difficult. Mrs. Pelosi just handed the thing over to, you know, the new Speaker in the House in the United States, and it's always a problem.
I think it's a problem, Howard, because we're dealing with politicians.
You're dealing with politicians.
Because politicians have tricks. But our concern is we do not want this country, which represents 40% of the West African economy.
Wow, really? That much?
40% to be destroyed because of the politicians'
Absolutely,
game.
Yeah. So, if it did, it wouldn't be the first time such a silly thing happened.
Exactly.
But let's try not to repeat that if possible. It's imperative,
definitely. And what we are saying at the African Chamber of Commerce is that, you know, elections are most of the time disputed. You know, furiously.
Right.
I mean, we have like notorious examples in this country. You know, you have Bush v. Gore that took
that was something else, wasn't it?
almost more than a month to be resolved by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
And we have the Minnesota Senate race
went on for months.
between Coleman and R. Franken. We took from November to June.
Counting tens of votes.
It took literally that long.
And that was in a context of a political system where that did not have to break down into militia fighting or anything like that.
So this is our position.
Right.
Elections can be disputed, but we do not have to resort to force.
Yeah, well, is there an adequate institutional structure to deal with the disputed election without it resolving to force?
In the Ivory Coast, there is, and even if there is not, because all sides are like, you know, strong on their position. I think what the international community should do, and this is really our position, and this is what in the coming days we'll be advocating, is to create an international body to go to the Ivory Coast.
An international what?
International body or group or whatever, to go to the Ivory Coast and look into the elections. And
there isn't such a body existing in the institutional structure of the international order?
No, I don't.
There could be, there should be something like that built into the international order.
Not such
Mr. Carter's done a lot trying to guarantee democracy, fair elections.
Basically, what the Carter Center, for example, does is to go and supervise elections, observe elections.
That's private sector. That's a private
sector. But then what we are advocating is for both candidates to the incumbent and the opposition leader to allow an impartial, independent international body and group to go to the Ivory Coast and look into the result.
There's no condition at the World Court or anything that it could be referred to in terms of institutionally. If this comes up in country A, it would be done at one chamber of the World Court or something. There's no international law.
No, it does
We don't have sufficient international law.
Remember,
they have all the differences we started talking about at the beginning.
Remember, Remember how we started.
Right. That's why I think I wanted to go there.
Each country wants to maintain their own sovereignty.
Right.
So because of that, there is not such. I mean, in the U.S., when we have disputed elections, usually the states will deal with the election, and then if they can, it goes to the federal level. Okay. So what we are saying is for the international community to drop the need to go to Ivory Coast by force. To drop this request.
What would be, this is when you say the international, that's not the African Union? That's not, Mr. Gaddafi's talking about the United States of Africa?
No, we're not talking about the African Union.
No, okay.
We're talking about the UN.
The
UN.
Blue helmets.
Because right now the UN has about 10,000 military troops in the Ivory Coast.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And
are they well armed and are they powerful, or are they just blue helmets?
What's happened is the mandate of these 10,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
military people, was to protect civilians.
Okay. Yeah.
But this mandate can change if they want to go to war with the incumbent president to take him out of power.
Mm-hmm.
The UN is, as we speak, trying to find ways to change the mandate of the United Nations troops in the Ivory Coast from maintaining security to getting, actively involved in the country in order to, to take out the incumbent president. And we don't think that this is the solution, because it should be a bloody and messy civil war that will engulf.
Has there been in the air on either side or whatever compromise coming, some sort of a compromise thing that could save face, as they say in China, and also reach the you got a game of chicken going on, where we're going to run over the cliff first and that and kind of thing. That's what happens in politics. But have there been any rumors or meetings or backdoor or back channel things going on which indicate the incumbent may be willing to come to some sort of an agreement so that you could avoid violence, or vice versa even?
Yeah, I think...
You understand what I'm saying?
No, and this is really, and this is what our position is.
Your position, you mean the Arab Chamber of Commerce?
The Chamber, because...
You mean, yeah, okay. Chamber of Commerce, you're speaking for the Chamber of Commerce.
I'm speaking because at the end of the process, the opposition leader may be the one who won the elections. It may be well. He may be the one who came on top. But then how do you...
But if you have the International Commission that could oversee and check into it and then have a real reading of what happened,
and then,
like intervening between the case of Bush v. Gore, you would have an agency that would count all those ballots and bring it down, run it down, and make a kind of quasi-ruling. And do each of the parties agree to the fact that they could submit to the judgment of such an organization, or anywhere along that line being negotiated?
No. This
you don't understand what I'm saying?
No. And this is really. I think from what I read, I know that the opposition leader, even up to yesterday, was calling on the international community to bring force to take out the incumbent president. He was calling on, the...
But wait a minute. He's saying, is there anything coming from the incumbent president that said that he may be able to see his way clear to have some international oversight committee to study the old situation in the thought that he may win? Because you're assuming that he's going to lose, or I'm not. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm not
you're presenting a prejudicial view.
Basically, this is what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, we are dealing with a disputed election.
Yes, right.
So, this is not
the end of the world.
This is not a big deal.
Yeah, right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it happens all the time. Well, how have we dealt with it in the past? What examples do we have from the past? From Africa, where similar things have happened.
From Africa, we have Kenya.
Yeah, what?
We have Kenya recently, the election in Kenya.
Yeah, what happened?
It was a disputed election between, the incumbent and the opposition leader.
How was it decided? How was it
There was
rectified?
a power-sharing agreement.
A power-sharing.
And now the country is being governed.
Mugabe,
there's also an example in Zimbabwe with
Tsvangirai
and Mugabe.
Yeah.
So my point is, and this has never been done anywhere in the entire world. Whenever there are disputed elections, we never heard that the international community will mount a force to go and take out one candidate as opposed to the other.
That's never happened.
It's never happened.
Those agreements weren't done under threat of that happening, or some international agency or public opinion even?
Usually,
influences.
Usually, whenever the UN intervene in a country, it's because of Title 7 of the Security Council.
Title 7? Yeah.
Of the UN Security Council, whenever peace, international peace or regional peace is threatened by whatever is going on in a specific country.
So
then
Article 51 doesn't come in.
Yeah. So then the Security Council has power to intervene because whatever is going on in a specific country will threaten the international peace.
Right.
And so this is different from what is going on in the Ivory Coast.
Okay.
What is going on and I want your audience to understand that we are talking about two career politicians who are fighting to be in power. And we're talking about a disputed election.
Yes.
So how do we go about resolving?
We don't have precedent to deal with such a thing.
There is no precedent.
Okay, that's a problem.
So then the question is, how do you go about resolving this impasse?
What are the implications of geopolitical realities of Africa in terms of support for the two sides of that? If there was to be something, would there be support from? Is it universal support for the?
No, it's major because you have a country, like Ghana. That said flat out that they won't give their troops among the ECOMOG, the ECOWAS troops to go to fight in the Ivory Coast, because Ghana has a border with the Ivory Coast. So they don't want their troops to go to the Ivory Coast to kill
other
people who may be their own people, because it's
ethnically.
It's ethnically. You see what I'm saying? And some other countries may not want to do that. Today, the only country, the main country that is in charge of the ECOWAS troops in this region of Africa is Nigeria. But we know that at the beginning of the year, Nigeria, the president, will be seeking re-election.
Okay.
Because he was a vice president who took over when the president died, Mr. Goodluck, Jonathan Goodluck.
Okay,
So he will be he will be facing his own internal issues in Nigeria at the beginning of the year.
What I guess I'm getting at, if it were to break down into violence, could it expand regionally on both sides?
Of course.
And what are the lineups on both sides who would line up between the two forces? Any of the big powers? Any of the big powers get involved in that, or are they just watching it?
No. And this is this.
There are other international interests in it. 40% of the West African economy. That's a lot.
This is so interesting because look at what is happening. The West does not want to get involved, but now they want to have a proxy war to the ECOWAS. Mainly Nigerian forces to be sent in the Ivory Coast, because French said it. French said that they have no intent to get involved military in the Ivory Coast. I don't think that the U.S. want to be bogged down in the Ivory Coast.
I would think they got enough problems in Afghanistan.
Yes.
And other places all over the world.
The U.S. is not getting involved. France specifically said that they don't want to get involved. Now,
have they had position papers come out, Mr. Clinton or anybody, in terms of this issue? Have they addressed it directly, or
who, France?
No, the United States of America, our State Department, or anybody. What are they saying? What is President Obama saying?
President Obama spoke to the president of Nigeria yesterday.
Okay. And
the deal is to increase the troops, the UN troops in the Ivory Coast. From maybe 10,000 to 11 or 12,000. And the goal is to maintain peace and make sure that, the Ivory Coast does not slide into civil war.
I hope it's financed and everything, because they're having a hard time keeping the lights on at the UN.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah, go on. It's all right.
So this is really what is going on. So there will be a proxy war fought by mostly Nigerian troops on behalf of Western nations, because they are the only one really interested in using military force in the Ivory Coast. Because our reading of the situation in the west part of the region is that most of the African leaders want to deal with this situation through dialogue, negotiation, and then looking into the result of the election. You have France and the UN and the US and the European Union who are mainly calling for
dialogue.
No, they're not calling for dialogue. They're calling for the president, the incumbent president, to step down.
I see. Yeah,
and then they're threatening him with force. If he does not do so, and then the force will be the ECOWAS military power to go to the Ivory Coast and to fight.
Very tense. One last thing. We only got a couple minutes. Has Mr. Gaddafi weighed in at all on the issue?
No,
he has not weighed in. Mr. Wade in Senegal?
Wade to the ECOWAS is been vocal. He from the beginning of the conflict, he asked the incumbent president to step down, and he
sticks with that.
He was instrumental in making sure that the ECOWAS, suspend the participation of the Ivory Coast within this organization.
It's a very dangerous thing. It could break out. We ought to keep our eye on it. I really thank you for filling in. It's very complex. What do you think? What is your thought? Make a we got about a minute left or two. Make a prognostication. What do you think, not that what you hope will happen, but what do you think is going to happen in real terms in the days, weeks, and months ahead?
I mean, my hope is to make sure that people, countries, take a deep breath. Do not rush to judgment.
Right.
And send, impartial people in the Ivory Coast to look into what really took place, because this is how election has been resolved.
Before, there's precedent for that.
I mean, we know how people resolve elections.
That's a metaphor.
Country.
We know how to do it, so let's try and do it.
Let's
if we can.
do the same. We do not have to go to war. We do not have to kill people.
Amen. I think that's a large theme for the whole human community. It's so good to see you, Gnoleba. Really good. Your pleasure. Founder and chairman and CEO of the African Chamber of Commerce in the United States, a major organization. Give my best to Mr. Diop when you see him.
I will.
Thank you for tuning in. We'll be coming back again tomorrow. Okay, looks like we just got it in, so, okay.
Oh, yeah, you were looking at the watch.
I've got it timed here, see, I had to have it timed.
Good.
So we got, thanks for coming in, it's very complex.
But I
think Diop over in Africa now?
He's in Dakar.
Is he concerned with this issue? No. Is all of Africa concerned with this issue?
I mean, we're talking about 46% of the economy.
I know. 46?
46. I thought you said
40. 46
no.
is bigger than 40. That's really consequential, as they would say. Okay.
Good. Thanks for having me out.
No, it's my pleasure. Glad we could do it. It's very timely. This is going to air next Thursday.
Anytime it doesn't.
Let me make sure we get that straight with you, and then.
Thank you.